right, we are recording. Before we started this meeting, I went and watched the video from last semester again. And I'm going to try not to cover the same stuff I covered in the last video because it seems a little bit redundant. So if you're watching this video or if you're here live, I recommend watching that past video because that really covers a lot of what you need to know. So this hopefully will be a much quicker video since so much is covered in the last video. Mostly, I'm just going to really quickly go over the syllabus and answer any questions you might have. So actually, before I get started, do you have any specific or general questions? That might be even better than me boringly going through the syllabus note by note. No questions?
I don't think so.
That's okay.
Not based on the syllabus.
Okay, well, I'll go through it anyway, and maybe as I'm saying something, maybe that'll jog a memory, and if you have a question, let me know. Let me go. Let me present my screen. And while I'm doing that, speaking of the other video, I did mention in that last video to those people from the last semester, if they watched it, they could get, I think it was 2 points of 2 points of extra credit. And that applies to you guys too. Now I've decided to go ahead and give you extra credit for that too. So if you watch the video, there's 2 points of extra credit, and you'll learn, it'll tell you in the video how to go about getting those extra credit points. So watch that. And then there'll also be extra credit for this video, but I'll explain that a little bit later, how to get that. So can someone confirm they can see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. This will be very quick and easy. Hopefully you've all read the syllabus. If not, I highly recommend it. But here we go. Course information. Obviously, it's all right here. My name is Vasilios Dianellos. I know that's a weird name. You can call me Mr. D or Mr. Dianellos. I guess some people call me Professor Dianellos. I'm not technically a professor. I'm an instructor, but hey, I like the promotion, so you call me that if you want. But anyway, as long as you let me know what you plan on calling me, I'll know what to listen for, and that'll be fine. My phone number, it's right there, 766-3125. That is my office phone number. It is forwarded to my cell phone. So you can call me anytime you want, any time of day, any time of night. I turn my ringer off when I don't want to be disturbed, whether it's sleeping or not. So I don't care what time it is. If you study late in the morning and it's 2:00 in the morning and you have a question about a concept, call me. Most likely I'll be asleep and I won't even hear it, so you won't disturb me. But that offer is open. I don't care what time it is. Just call me. There's my email address. Obviously, a lot of you have already emailed me, so you should be familiar with that. But there it is. My office is in 131 Hamblin Hall. That's on the first floor. Hamblin Hall is the one, if you're familiar with the campus, closer towards the interstate. Yeah, so you can meet me anytime you want. I'm there very often. Specifically, I'm there Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 to 10:40 a.m. At the very least, that's when I'm there. So you don't need an appointment. You can just stop by and see me if you want. Same thing with this link. If you click this, that'll bring us to where we're meeting right now online. So anytime, again, between Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9 to 10:40, you can drop by my office or click on that link, and I'll be there to help you. And really quickly, even though I said this in the last video, I want to remind everybody that I'm here to help. So even though this is an online course, and generally online courses are made to where you kind of do your own thing, I'm here to help. So if you have questions about the discussion or questions about the exam or whatever it is, just come online and I'll be there to help you. I can walk you through stuff, for the labs, for example. I can just, as if it was a real in-person course, I can explain the concepts to you and walk you through each step. So anyway, there's that. The academic program associate, her name is Ms. Tina Sanchez. She's in the front office of Hamblin Hall. So if you have any issues with me, I wish you would take them up with me, but if you don't feel like it, she's your next step. So you can talk to her about your issues with me and she'll send you in the right direction, whether it be my department chair or the dean or whoever it may be. So any questions about all that basic information?
Nope.
Okay. Course description. I pretty much covered that in the other video too, and you can read it. So there's not much to say about that, but I'll just repeat what I said in the last video, what I've written so many times, which is that I'm not here to tell you what to think, which is especially relevant in a course like this, environmental biology. You might assume I'm here to say, the environment's important and you should drive electric cars and we should not use coal and, whatever else the case may be. I'm not here to tell you that. I'm not here to make decisions for you and tell you what's right and wrong. I'm here to give you some information. You're going to learn the basics so you can come up with your own opinions. I'm sure you already have your own opinions, but after this course, hopefully you'll have more educated opinions. So that's the purpose here. I'm giving you some background information so you can make your own well-informed decisions. Objectives, I pretty much covered that too with that last little spiel. Outcomes, same thing. Textbook, I don't think I mentioned this in the last video, but I have in writing. I highly recommend getting the textbook. I'm using an older edition because it saves you money. But the reason I highly recommend it is because, again, this is an online class. And it's a 100 level course. So I teach out of the textbook. All my lectures are based on the textbook. All the quizzes, all the exams, it's all based on the textbook. The only thing that's not strictly, verbatim from the textbook are the labs, but those are all pretty self-explanatory. So I highly recommend getting the textbook. And for those of you who are on my Facebook group, someone asked that question, or I posed that question to some of my former students to see what their opinion was. And the ones who answered said that, yes, they did recommend getting the textbook. But hopefully it's really cheap at this point. So any questions about the textbook?
I have it.
Yeah.
If you want to give us any insight on good ways to study.
That's such a tough one.
Listening to you or the book, just because I don't see it ever being possible for me to come in and test.
Okay. Well, let me address the study thing, and then I'll come back to the test thing, actually. I don't know. That's tough. I guess just read it enough to where you're man, I don't know. That is so tough. Let me put it this way. When it comes to studying, if you're talking about exams, which you mentioned, there will be study guides.
Okay.
So what happened was the people who wrote your textbook provided me with exams. So here's a test bank for this chapter. Here's a test bank for that chapter. So what I've done is I've taken some of the questions out of those test banks, and that's actually what your quizzes are made of. Verbatim, those are the questions that came from the publishers of your textbook. And the 50-ish questions that you get on each exam actually comes from that too. So I took those 50 questions, or I took questions from them that they gave me, and I reworded them. So I guess your best bet is just to read and reread the chapters. Make sure you're familiar with it. And then when you get the study guide, study those questions, because the study guide will be 50 questions, and those 50 questions, there'll be some version of those questions on the test.
Okay.
Yeah. So as far as grading is concerned, that's what I would say. And when you're studying, keep in mind, generally speaking, I'm not going to be looking for examples. I don't know how to put that. I don't know. Maybe, and it's been a while. I'm sad to say, but it's been a while since I've read it. But, maybe if the book gives some examples of biocentric ethics, I want you to know what biocentric ethics are, but I'm not going to specifically ask you what was the example from the book, if that makes any sense. I'm not very concerned about the examples they're giving. I'm more concerned that you have the broad understanding.
Okay. For the quizzes, do you get like 2 tries, or is it just a one and done? I know that seems like but where I live, my internet is not super stable, and I just need to know if I need to like make it a point to come to campus and test.
Good question. I thought I turned that off. I didn't. The quizzes, unless there's a mistake, and if there is, someone let me know and I'll fix it. The quizzes all should be take it as many times as you want.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's good to know.
Up until the due date. The exams, on the other hand, are not that way. The exams is one and done.
Okay.
So yeah, you might want to make sure you have a good, stable internet connection for that.
Okay.
And going back to the exams, and I mentioned this on the last video, but I'll say it again. There are 50 multiple choice questions. And again, you'll have seen some version of them from the study guide, but there's 50 multiple choice questions, and you'll have about 50 points to do it. 50 minutes to do it. The reason is, even though I hate timed exams, this is an online course, and I want it to be a closed book exam. But I also don't want to force you to get the exam proctored. So I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. I don't want to force you to get a proctor, but at the same time, I want to make sure it's closed book. So by making it 50 questions in 50 minutes, you don't have time to look up every single question. So that's the purpose behind that. That being said, if you want more time, I don't care. I would make it untimed if we can have any kind of official proctoring, or if we can arrange what we're doing right now, where we meet online I can see you, but in this case, or in that case, things will be reversed. So instead of you seeing my screen as I'm talking to you, I would see your screen. And I could hear you and see you, and I can make sure that you're not looking anything up and you don't have anybody in the room helping you out and all that stuff. So any questions about that?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Weekly discussions, they're pretty straightforward. A lot of you have probably already seen the first one or started it. They are worth 25 points each. And if you look at what we do weekly, it's worth more than the quiz. And so you do one a week. So that's what, every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks you have a 100 point exam, but you also have 50 points worth of discussion. So you can see discussions are important because in my opinion, that's a really good way of gauging what, if you understand the material in the book. So anyway, yeah, we're going to have 8 of them once a week. They're worth 25 points apiece. I will say this, Mick, and I said this in the last video, please make sure you read the prompts carefully. People make small mistakes, which is expected to make them here and there, but some people like habitually make small mistakes and it hurts their grade at the end. But, they should have looked, at least, again, to make a mistake here and there is one thing, but if every week you're missing details out of the prompt, it's going to hurt you. So yeah, that's it for the discussions. I will say this, and I can't grade you on this, but I challenge you and anybody watching this, if you can, when we do a discussion, I challenge you to, how do I say this? Post your opinions, right? Or take a view that is opposite of what you really think, as a mental exercise. So for example, in this discussion, week 1, it's should we continue to use coal? So if you're somebody who thinks we shouldn't continue to use coal, I challenge you to write about why we should continue to use coal. And vice versa. If you think we should continue, I challenge you to write about why we should not. Again, I have no way of knowing, but it's a great mental exercise because there's one of the things I hope you see at the end of this course or by the end of this course is that there's 2 sides to every story and 2 sides to every coin. So I want you to understand both sides of an issue. So I challenge you to do that. Again, I have no way of knowing.
Discuss it or when you
sorry.
write about it.
What's that? I'm sorry.
When you write about it, put it in your discussion.
Right. So have you looked at this week's discussion yet?
Yeah, I've started it. So,
Okay.
But I really didn't want to. I didn't know if I should push how I felt and why I felt the way I did.
Oh no, not necessarily. But if you're going, like, again, this week being the example, for you to explain a certain ethical point of view, you're going to have to give some examples. You're going to have to say one way or the other, this is why we should use coal based on this ethical point of view, or this is why we should not use coal based on this ethical point of view. And I'm just saying, I challenge you to do the opposite of how you feel.
I'll do the opposite. Okay.
Yeah. Not that you have to, especially in your specific case on this specific discussion, because you've already started it. So I certainly wouldn't want you to have to go back to the drawing board. But yeah, same with your responses. I think it would be healthy to be able to look the other way. Plus, depending on how familiar you are with environmental issues, some of you probably already know a lot about environmental issues, especially if you're pro coal. You probably know a lot of great things about coal, and if you're anti coal, you probably know a lot of bad things about coal. Again, just using that as an example. So, it's good to learn some stuff that you don't know, right? That's why we're here. So that's my challenge.
Okay.
What else about discussions? Make sure you get I shouldn't say make sure. I recommend getting them done as early as possible because generally speaking, and maybe you've already noticed this, I'll go in and when I do the grading, I'll leave responses if I can and say, hey, for a few extra points, can you do this? And can you respond with that? I'm trying to edge you towards the perfect grade. But if you do it last minute, a lot of times I just don't have time to do that. So I'll just have to give you a grade and move on. So the earlier the better, generally speaking, with everything, but especially with discussions. So any questions about discussions?
No.
Okay.
No.
And again, what? Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't. Sorry.
Okay. So again, or I haven't said this yet, but every week the initial post is due on Wednesday by midnight, and then your 2 responses are due that Sunday by midnight. So yeah, that's that. Quizzes, very straightforward. I think it's 20 points apiece. I think they're only 20 questions, and again, they come straight from the textbook. and you should have as many opportunities as you need to take it. Exams, we've already talked about that. I will say this, depending on how they turn out, if the whole class does really bad on a certain exam, I might let everybody retake it and have an average. So say, for example, you get a 50 the first time you take it, and then the second time you get a 100. Well, I'll take the average of that, which is a 75. The only catch, if you will, is I won't let your grade go down. So if you get an 80 the first time you take it, and then you get a 70 the second time you take it, I'm not going to give you an average of 75. I'm going to keep your higher grade of an 80. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Again, exams, let me know if you want them proctored. And then one last thing, even though I mentioned this on the other video, the questions on the exam are worded very oddly. And I do that because there's an app where you can take a picture of a question and it'll give you the answer. It'll Google it for you and it'll give you the answer. So I've written these things in such a way, and I've tested each one of them now, where you take the picture and the answers don't come up. So when I say they're worded oddly, I mean like there's weird spaces in between paragraphs and different colors. So, and I have been told by certain students, in the evaluations, that they are hard to read. And I know they are, and I'm not doing it to make it hard. I'm doing it to confuse the people who are cheating, or to confuse the devices that they're using to cheat. So again, just another.
You're smarter than me for sure.
But yeah, so that's just another reason where I would say, if you want, let's figure out a way to get those exams proctored so you don't have to worry about how much time it is that way. And we'll be face to face on the screen, so you can say, hey, can you please explain to me what question 18 is asking? And I'll be gladly do that for you. So any questions about exams?
Yeah.
All right. Comprehensive final exam. We've already basically covered what exams are. The only difference is the final exam is obviously going to be worth more points. It's going to be about 100 questions instead of about 50. There's still going to be multiple choice. You'll still get a study guide. You'll have more time to take it. Again, about 1 point per minute. 1 minute per question. So the comprehensive final exam, about 50 of those questions will be from the first 3 exams. And then about 50 of those questions will be from the last 2 chapters. So half of it will be new material that you haven't been tested on yet, and the other half will be comprehensive. Does that make sense? Any questions on that?
No.
All right. Lab. There's not too much I can say about that, especially considering yesterday I made a video about how to turn in labs. So you can watch that video. I'm going to post that with this video. It's pretty straightforward. But again, like I mentioned earlier, you don't have to do this alone. Labs are not me gauging what you know. Labs are you putting in some work and using what you've learned. So that being said, again, you meet me online. I can just walk you through each question if you want, each step of the experiment or each question that you have to answer. I'm there to help you. And they're all online. They're either virtual experiments, like this week, you do a virtual experiment where you're counting the bubbles coming from a goldfish. Or more often than not, I'm going to ask you a question, ask you some questions. And rather than performing an experiment to collect data, I'm going to provide you with websites, and you're going to collect data from there, like from data that's already been collected in the real world. You're collecting it from government websites usually. So any questions about labs?
My goldfish was just breathing.
Breathing?
His mouth was just opening and shutting. I wonder if I was on the wrong website.
No, I think that's right. It may have been me because I just said bubbles.
Okay.
And to be honest, it's been a while since I've looked at that website too. Every semester I click it to make sure it works, but
Okay.
I haven't done the experiment in a while. So it might not be bubbles. It might just be mouth opening, but
okay.
Whatever the case may be. And another thing to say about labs that kind of jogged my memory. Generally speaking, and this is not going to be in the syllabus because if it's abused, I just stop doing it. But generally speaking, if you turn in a lab before the due date and I have time to grade it and give you feedback, then you can fix it and resubmit it for full credit.
Okay.
And because of that, when I give you feedback, at first it's going to be very vague. I don't want to be like, oh no, the answer to number 2 is this, because then all you have to do is go in and change it. I don't want you to do that. I want to push you towards figuring out the right answer. So with labs, again, feel free to correct any mistakes that you make for full credit. And for that reason, again, the earlier you turn it in, the better, because that gives you more time to fix it. Also, And excuse me, the caveat to that is, sometimes I get busy, so you might turn in something on Wednesday expecting what I just talked about, but it might happen where I can't grade it until Sunday anyway. So don't count on that, but I'm telling you, I'll do my best to make that happen.
Okay.
And likewise, if you turn in a lab and I grade it and it's past the due date, unofficially, and again, this is not on the syllabus because if it's abused, I just won't do it. Unofficially, if you make the corrections and it's after the due date, I'll still give you more points, half the points, but I'll still, if you've done an effort to fix your mistakes, then you can earn some points back. Yeah, that's it for that. So any questions about that?
Nope.
All right.
I feel like I'm going to have a ton of questions about labs, but I need to watch the video first. I just haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
That's okay. I mean, do you have any right now? Because it's okay. I don't mind saying the same thing that I said in the last one. I'm trying to avoid it, but it's not like a strict hard rule.
It helped me to watch that video.
Okay.
Okay, then I'll watch the video first. That way you don't have to repeat yourself. I just felt very overwhelmed.
With this first particular lab?
Just with the whole class in general.
Okay. Well, well, I'm here to help. So, again, like I said earlier, meet me online for office hours and I can walk you through everything.
Okay, I appreciate it.
No problem. Let me check back on here. I'm hearing some noises.
It might be from my house. I'm sorry. My dogs are picking right now to go completely insane. So
no, it's okay. Somebody was actually trying to join the meeting and I had to click to let him in. So there we go. That's Kenny. So there we go. Now they're in. So let me get back to this. Talked about the grades. It's pretty straightforward. Oh, another thing, and I know I mentioned this in the other video that I'm asking you guys, but not forcing you guys to watch. Your grade is your grade. I don't bump grades up. Actually, I'll scroll down to this. There we go. So if you win the class with 899 points, that's a B, and that's what you get. And some people get upset about that. Like, oh, that's only 1 point away from an A. Why wouldn't you give that? Why don't you just bump me up? And the short answer to that, and I explained it a lot in the other video, is I give you so many extra credit possibilities. Oh, excuse me. A lot of extra credit opportunities. And like I mentioned earlier, you can still fix your mistakes in your labs, right? So there's so many ways you can bump your grade up. So that's why I don't bump your grade up, because I'm giving you the tools to bump your own grade up. And on that note, another thing about extra credit, and I mentioned this on the other video, when I first started extra credit, some of the students were complaining that they weren't worth this. Like, this is hardly worth any points. And there's two reasons for that. One is because there's going to be so many extra credit opportunities. If I made them worth a lot of points, that would just be insane because, again, there's going to be so many extra credit opportunities. I didn't want to do that. And the other reason is I don't want extra credit to be a game changer. I want it to be that situation where if you win the class with an 899, like, oh, well, let me just do this. Let me do a couple of extra credit points and bump my own grade up to an A. That, in my mind, is what extra credit should be. What I don't want it to be is like if you have a 850, right? That's a solid B, right, dead in the middle of the B. I don't think extra credit should bump you a full grade. I think if you're a B student, which is great, you're a B student. I don't think there should be so much extra credit where you're able to bump yourself up a full grade. It happens. It's possible, but that's not my intention. My intention is to let you bump your own grade up if you're borderline, if you have a borderline grade. And also, because you'll notice I'm very nitpicky with grading, not big points. You'll still get good grades, but I'll deduct a bunch of tiny little points for this and that because I want you on your toes. But because they're tiny little points that I'm deducting, I want to offer you tiny little points to put back in. So any questions about grading?
No.
I don't think so.
All right. We already talked about the discussions. You can read it there. Nothing to say. We've already talked about it. What else? Yeah, definitely read all that. If you have any questions, let me know. Quizzes and tests. We've already talked about that. Due dates. I haven't said this, but I said it in the last video. Due dates are the due dates. I know some of you are working, what's the word, non-traditional students. As a matter of fact, that's why we're meeting at 5 p.m., right? Because you have to work. And that was me when I was an undergrad. Well, obviously graduate school too. I was a non-traditional student. I was like, I think 30 when I started. I had a full-time job, a family, a home, all that. So that being said, I have empathy. I understand that sometimes you can't devote time, and sometimes you have to do things last minute. But it is what it is. If your life is busy and you miss an assignment, and you get a bad grade because of it, you just accept it. I did that in my career, my college career, where I had to put something off, not because I was lazy, but because I had a life, like work, and I missed an assignment. It was what it was, So I feel bad for you, and I don't judge you if you miss assignments, but that is what it is. That being said, again, a good time to remind you, unofficially, you can correct your mistakes on labs. So if you didn't turn in your lab on time, that's a mistake, right? So that's a 0. But if you turn it in late, and let's say you get 100% when you turn it in, then I'll give you half credit for that, and you'll get 50% of that. So again, 50% is better than nothing. So any questions about due dates?
No.
All right. So again, I've told you so many times, or even just in this discussion, earlier the better for so many reasons. 1, so you don't miss the due date, and 2, so you have more time to correct your mistakes. Lab, we've already talked about. Nothing really to say there. Course policies, we've already talked about. Late work, student expectations. Read the textbooks. Pay attention. Read the textbook. Pay attention to the instructions, and make sure you come to me if you have problems. That's basically it for student expectations. Proctored testing. Again, it says this course will have 0 proctored quizzes or exams, which again means none of you will ever be forced to have a proctored exam, but that option is always open if you want to. And that's it. Wait, no, excuse me. Course schedule is really nothing to say here. Basically, every week we cover 2 chapters. And it almost goes, that looks like a mistake. Anyway, no, it's there. It just looks funny. It's almost in order. You can see chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You can see we skip chapter 13. Then they go to 14, 15. Skip chapter 16 and go to 17 and 18. So it's all pretty straightforward. So are there any questions about the syllabus or anything else while we've got you on here and while we're recording?
No, I don't think so. I feel like I'm pretty good.
Okay.
I think I'm good.
All right.
I'm fine.
All right. Extra credit. Let's make this one worth 1 point. Since the other one, the first one from last semester is worth 2 points, we'll make this one worth 1 point. So to get your 1 point, send me an email, say you watched the video or you were here live, and there's going to be a keyword. Like there was a keyword in the last video too. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you what it is. You need to watch it. But today's keyword, or the keyword for this video, will be, light. Here we go. Like a little light. So that's the keyword, LIGHT. So send me the email, say I was there or I watched the video, and the keyword is light.
Got it.
All right. So does anybody have anything for me?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, good luck. Looking forward to a great semester. Keep an eye on your emails.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Bye.
Here.
Guys.